Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Right then, not the Royal Navy this time, and something which sort of drives is linked into what I'm trying to impress on people is how weak we are as a military force. Finally, in some sections, in any case, they're beginning to wake up to the fact that we might be in a bit of trouble. So then, just a quick one. Britain increases artillery shell production eightfold. Now, you might be thinking, well, is that for preparation for war? Well, no, it clearly is, and this is from the UK DG. Britain has donated over 300,000 artillery rounds to the Ukraine. It is increasing production capability in the 155mm shells eightfold. The information came to light in response to the reply to a parliamentary written question. Daniel Kozanski, if I said that wrong, I do apologise, MP Conservative Shrewsbury and Atchingham asked the Secretary of State of Defence what steps have been helped to increase the production of 155mm shells for the Ukraine. So yes, we've produced the artillery shells and we're sending them all to the Ukraine. Not making sure that we've got them just in case we need them. Although, to be fair, we've sent most of our 155mm artillery pieces over to the Ukraine. And again, people need to worry about these things because we're sending all this stuff over to the Ukraine and not replacing it. In any case, James Cartledge, MP, Minister of State, Ministry of Defence, replied that the Ministry of Defence MOD has placed an order in June 2023 with BAE Systems to provide an eightfold increase in production capability 155mm shells. The MOD contracted significant initial quantities of 155mm shells, which will reinstate and build sovereign capability in stockpiles. So, this guy's asking for increased production for Ukraine, and the answer back is, which is important, which will, there we go, let's just highlight this. The contract is significant initial quantities of 155mm shells, which will reinstate and build sovereign capability and stockpiles. In respect to artillery ammunition being provided to the Ukraine since the start of the conflict, the UK has donated 300,000 rounds of artillery ammunition, including 155mm and the former Soviet Union calibers. So, old Daniel here was not worried about the fact that we're running out of ammunition ourselves. It's the fact that we just got to keep sending them to the Ukraine. Now, I probably have a different opinion of the conflict in Ukraine, which is probably going to knock people's noses out of the joint, but it's the simple truth of the facts. We're fighting a war in the Ukraine that we created. We created this because we, as member of NATO, didn't stick to the NATO agreement. When the NATO was created, it was created after the war, and it was specifically designed that there would be so many member nations, and then that was it. And the Russians were quite happy with this, with their Eastern Bloc, and they had theirs. And the rules were we didn't have anything to encroach upon Russian borders in Russian territories. We would not expand NATO to include any more countries and get anywhere closer to Russia, which we promptly ignored and did what we wanted. Now, some people go, oh, well, you know, he said, well, look, okay, let's just put it like this. Just say, for instance, China enters into a mutual trade pact with, say, Canada. And in that mutual thing, to do, you know, a nice deal with Canada, the Chinese say, well, for these trade deals, we want to put some missiles on your border between you and America. And the Canadians go, that's a good idea. Do you think the Americans would sit there and go, oh, okay, that's fine? And if you're wondering what the American response would be, I draw your attention to the Cuban Missile Crisis when the Russians tried to do exactly the same in Cuba and park nuclear weapons just off the coast of the United States of America. So by including or wanting to include Ukraine as a member of NATO is basically putting NATO missiles on the border of Russia. Yet for some unknown reason, we're annoyed at the fact that the Russians would act the same way. It would be very much akin to the the Russians having an agreement with the Shetland Islands, for instance, and decide to put missiles on the Shetlands. Do you think we'd just sit there and go, it's okay? We wouldn't do anything about it. The conflict in the Ukraine has been engineered specifically for what it is now, which is a proxy war, which is a meat grinder, which is a great place for billions and billions of pounds of other people's money to disappear down a black hole to buy nothing. You just look at how much money we've all sent to the Ukraine and then ask where it's being spent, because they're not paying for all the stuff we're sending them. They're in debt for that. So we send them billions of pounds in aid for what? To fund a war that we created by actually ignoring what was set down in stone when NATO was created. And now we're talking about kicking it off with Iran. And we have ministers and military leaders going, well, we've got to prepare for a war with Russia or North Korea or China or all of them and Iran because, it's coming. Why? So, nice to know that Ukraine are going to get some brand new shells, and apparently we're going to get some as well to use whatever artillery pieces that we have left before we donate them to the Ukraine as well. If you disagree with what I'm saying, I don't care, because I don't. Because that, if you can't see what's happening, then that's your problem. What I see is our military being stripped of equipment and being sent over to there. And because of diversity, equity and inclusion processes in the military, we're not recruiting anyone. So we've got a tiny, tiny, tiny armed force. Remember, the British Army is in its smallest state than it has been since 1806. We're in that bad of a thing that even if we did go to war, we've got barely any equipment and hardly any ammunition. And if you can't see that, then that's a you problem. My job is to bring it out here on YouTube to draw attention to the fact that this is the state that we're heading. We're in a terrifyingly dangerous position, and everybody seems to be either oblivious or couldn't give a shit. Any case, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, you know what to do. Like, share, and just subscribe. Whenever you catch up with this video, I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening. And with that, and as always, and until the next one, this is Gobster saying, I am going to love you and leave you.